Sam, what's 59 times 35?
2069. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they've got you too. They've got you too.
They've got me, gal. It's the chips. Oh my God. The line in this, I was gagged. I was watching this with Nick. And when he's like, if I were you, I'd lay off the chips. I was like, in 2024, that does not hit very well.
No, fat shaming in the noughties was just A-okay.
It really was something else. How are you, Alasdair? How are you?
I'm all right. I'm good. Yeah, I'm gearing up to move flat.
Yes.
Which is a stressful process, but it's going fine, and I'm actually quite excited for it. I think it's going to feel exciting and cathartic when it actually has kind of taken place, and I see my new living space all set out, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm very excited for a certain event we're attending tomorrow in our timeline. Because, of course, you listened to us in the past at Wholala. We're recording on Sunday afternoon.
Yes, we're recording this on Sunday the 25th, and tomorrow, Monday 26th, we are finally, and I've been telling everyone this, I'm like, I've been waiting my whole life for this. We are going to the BBC Doctor Who proms. Yeah, I'm so excited.
It's been such a long time coming. I remember there was one holiday I was on with my sister, and we both stayed up late because of the time zone difference to listen to one of the proms live. I just love the proms. And do you remember back in when was it when we had the 60th anniversary special Friday Night is Music Night with Joe Wiley, and you were hearing it come out live or right after it dropped, because it dropped by surprise on a Thursday?
Yeah, really randomly. I remember I was on the tube and I came out from the underground. You were texting me and you were on a train. You were like, I have no phone signal, but this is happening. And I was in the middle of Shoreditch and I didn't really have any signal. So I was like trying to get on Twitter, like, where is it? Where is it?
I didn't have any signal. And you were like, 15's theme, tell me when you've heard it. And I was like, it's not loading. And then I did finally get it. And I'll always remember where I was, Sam. I always remember where I was. I was waiting for a bus outside London Bridge Station, listening to 15's theme. And I was like, oof. Can I find the text that I sent you about 15's theme? Here we go. I searched the word stomp, and I knew that I would find it by searching the word stomp. Okay. I said, oh, we're off. Come on, pirate energy. You said, so piratey. I said, oh, but he's funny. He's a funny doctor. You said, yeah, and adventure-y. I said, he's stomping, and he's funny, and he's determined, and he's a pirate.
Oh my God. I was texting about Ruby's theme, and I said, girl, I'm sorry, you need to hear Ruby's theme. It's so beautiful, OMG. Delicate is the word I'd use, but I don't want to say any more. And you said, this is all I have, and it was just a print screen of it with the loading Wheel of Death.
Yep.
And I said, girl, get the fuck off that train.
I could not wait to get off that train.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Oh my God, the drama. We're definitely going to hear it tomorrow.
Yes.
At the proms. The question is, are we going to hear other versions of it as well? Are we going to hear...
I hope... Okay, last minute predictions. I think that we are going to have some kind of companion suite where they'll like go through we won't have like a whole rendition of Rose's theme and a whole rendition of Martha's theme, whatever. But I think we'll have some kind of suite where they're like building them all in together. Yeah.
Murray gave us some of the things that will be played actually, but I guess we'll come to that anyway, because by the time we've posted this episode, you'll know what it is. But they did say there's going to be some of the classics, some of the lighter episodes, some darker moments from season 1, and they said there won't be anything new from 2025, but that could be a lie.
But also, I'm fine with that. I want to go... It's a bit like... I remember going to a gig once for Grace and Chance, and 2/3 of the gig was him playing unreleased music from his upcoming album, and we all stood there like, we don't know any of this, my darling. Play the classics.
This, my love.
I don't know.
Club classics.
Well, speaking of club classics, the episode we're talking about today, my goodness.
What do you mean? It is a classic, or we are bringing back a classic companion?
Do you know what? There's so many levels to it. Bringing back a classic companion, assistant, some might say. It's a classic episode. I'd say this is... It's funny because plot-wise, it's quite a thin plot. It's a bit Monster of the Week, but it's one of those episodes where the Monster of the Week is the least important thing of the episode.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a character piece. I think it's the perfect encapsulation of addressing the Doctor's morality when it comes to like picking up and dropping companions. Like, it's I love this episode so much.
Me too. That's what I wrote. I was saying this for me is the definitive, the single most interesting exploration of the relationship between the Doctor and the companion. I think It is one of the greatest episodes of all time. Watching it, I forgot how much I like it. I don't think I've been back to many series 2 in a little while. And I found myself really wanting more of it. Like, it's one of those where you know all the beats of the story.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just know the lines, you know the delivery of the lines.
Yep.
But I was thinking, if I watched this today and I was kind of in my, RTD2 jumping on the kind of armchair critic train, which is kind of our thing. I'm kidding, it's not our thing. If I was to watch it today, I would probably accuse it of being too rushed. And I feel like sometimes the 45-minute story is the problem. And it doesn't stick out. I'm not like, oh, the pacing's off or anything. I just think, reflecting on it, I'm like, they could have almost given this more breathing room still for like those really nice conversations that happen in the cafe, in the TARDIS.
My favourite moments of this episode are moments like the moment in the cafe with the Doctor and Sarah Jane, in the moment with the two of them in front of the TARDIS. I think, much as I love like the catty fight with Sarah Jane and Rose, it's like that little talk afterwards where they're realising they can relate to each other. And those are the moments where I think this episode truly shine. And then you have like, the dodgy CGI bat people and then you see the other side of the coin.
Yeah. It's got a lot to it. We should just jump in.
Now, Alasdair, before we dive into School Reunion, I would love to read you a little Doctor Who fanecdote.
Yes, please do. I love these.
Yes, so we've been reaching out to you and asking you to send in your Doctor Who fanecdotes. Now, these are stories from across the Whoniverse. Is it an awkward encounter with one of the actors on the show? Is it a fun fan story? Is it your idea for what you'd like to put on the show? You can reach out to us on our email, which is hulalapod@gmail.com, and let us know your stories. And today, I've actually touched on this one before because it kind of opens with a sweet message and then the fanecdote, but I'll read this out. The header for this is, Secret Diary of a TARDIS Gay, very big fan, but please, for the love of God, have a Patreon. You deserve it.
We will strongly consider.
We will. Now, this person said, "Hi, boys. I just want to say I'm such a big fan of the podcast. I started listening to this just before the latest season started, and I've already nearly run out of episodes because I've binged so many.
Aww.
Thank you so much for listening." Now, they emailed us in relation to our Secret Diary episode, which is a few weeks ago, but they have said, "I would like to ask if you can please set up a Patreon with ad-free episodes, as I'm sure that I'm not the only person who'd pay for a Patreon. You are very well loved, and to be honest, you bloody deserve a Patreon. You both work so bloody hard, and if Doctor Who is now on a subscription service, it's only right for you to do the same."
Fair enough, yeah.
Now, they then dive into their fanecdote. They said, "I have a secret diary of the TARDIS, Gay Tales of the TARDIS anonymous story." They say, "So I've always been a TV fan, and in 2010, when I was 10, me and my dad went on a trip to London to go on the BBC tour. We actually met a lot of celebrities like the Hairy Bikers, Ed from Ed and Out Show, and Whovian Chris Johnson. However, the highlight for me happened before the tour when we were walking around the BBC. I was skipping down the road all excited, and then I froze in my tracks because walking down the road, briefcase in hand, was Stephen Moffat." Oh my God, if I walked past Stephen Moffat, I'd freak out. They said, "Me being the autistic Whovian I am, I instantly recognised him and ran straight up to him asking for an autograph. He was dead lovely and took a photo with me and signed a piece of paper for me saying, 'Don't blink.' It was a fond memory, and I laugh because my dad must have been thinking, 'Shit, why is my daughter talking to this middle-aged man?'"
Why she run up to this man in his 40s and said, "I love you."
Yeah, exactly. They said, "Sorry, this is such a long email. Please never apologise for that. And thank you for such a great podcast. And please get a Patreon. Even if you don't upload anything, I'll give you my money."
Sure, take a $5.
Thank you. That's such a sweet message.
That's a lovely message. I love that. That old BBC building, I think it must be like, the question mark shaped one they had, TV Centre.
Yeah.
And I did a tour there once. I didn't meet anyone famous though. And I think by the time I went, they were like wrapping up the tour because they were getting ready to move to the new site.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting. It's very interesting.
That's very interesting. I never got to go, but I'm sure it's very interesting.
They talked about how for BBC News, they like pre-prepare obituaries for like basically anyone who might die in the next decade. And they've got all these packages like ready to go that they just periodically update, which is quite scary to think.
I hope they get sent it. I'd want to see it. I've got approval.
I don't think they do. Editorially independent, innit?
Probably not.
No.
There you go. Well, thank you for sending that in, dear listener. And as I said before, we would love to hear from all of our lovely listeners. You can email us hulalapod@gmail.com.
Yes, please.
Well, for anyone who hasn't gathered already, we're talking about School Reunion. It's episode 3 of series 2 of Doctor Who. It aired on the 26th of April 2006, written by Toby Whithouse, who, as well as Doctor Who, also wrote for shows like Being Human and Becoming Human. It was directed by James Hawes, who, as well as Doctor Who, worked on projects such as Pulse and One Life. It had 8.3 million viewers and an IMDb score of 8.2 out of 10.
I didn't realise this was not written by RTD. I just kind of assumed it was.
No,
because
it's not.
it feels like one of those important stories that's kind of core to the character of the Doctor.
It feels like one that Russell, when he sees the lineup for the series, would want to have written. Like, who wouldn't want to write for Sarah Jane?
Yeah. He's done a few others. He's done The God Complex that we said was really great. He's also done A Town Called Mercy, Under the Lake Before the Flood. If I'm really honest, those ones aren't personal standouts. I know they're really well-received stories.
I recently, I mean, I was actually talking to someone about this off the pod. We need to do more Capaldi episodes. We need to do more Whittaker episodes. And I rewatched Under the Lake Before the Flood recently, and I enjoyed them so much more than I remember enjoying them on original air. So there's some that I would love to jump back into at some point. But yeah, he's written a lot for the Whoniverse.
Nice.
Well, for anyone who hasn't seen the episode in a while, it's on iPlayer. Jump on, give it a watch. But if you want a quick recap, here you go.
The story opens at Deffrey Vale High School, where kids keep getting ill and teachers are being mysteriously replaced. The Doctor and Rose are investigating the school after being tipped off by Mickey Smith and are working as a physics teacher and, begrudgingly, a dinner lady. The school is also being investigated by a journalist, Sarah Jane Smith, a previous companion to the Doctor. They meet, though she has no idea this teacher is really the regenerated Doctor.
They all return to the school at night where Sarah Jane sees the TARDIS and realises the truth about John Smith. She meets Rose and Mickey, and Rose gets sparked with jealousy, the Mrs. and the X. They find vacuum-sealed rats and soon realise the teachers are all disguised as large alien bats. They regroup outside and the Doctor needs to analyse mysterious oil found in the kitchens when Sarah Jane surprises him with an old friend.
Sarah Jane shows him K9, but he's no longer functional. After a quick trip to a night cafe and a blast from the sonic screwdriver, he's up and running and tells them that the substance is critotane oil. Critotane are a species who adapt their bodies with parts of their defeated enemies, and the Doctor needs to work out what they're doing with the schoolchildren. Sarah Jane also tells the Doctor she thought he must have died, and asks him why he left her. Rose asks him if she's the latest in a long line, and he tells her that though she can spend her life with him, he can't spend the rest of his life with her.
The next day, they go back to the school, and the Doctor faces the mysterious headmaster, Mr. Finch, also a Critotane. They soon realise that the children have been used to try and crack the stasis paradigm, a universal equation that would give them control over time and space, the building blocks of the universe. Finch offers the Doctor a place at his side, saying they could even bring back the Time Lords, but he refuses, and they run to meet the others.
After a quick fight with the Critotane, including K9 and his laser, they realise that they could blow up the Critotane oil, which is now toxic to them. The Doctor sends everyone away when K9 tells him that he'd have to shoot the oil with his laser from up close, destroying him too. The Doctor tells him that he's a good dog and leaves him with the Critotane, where he sacrifices himself, blows up the bats and the school, much to Sarah Jane's heartbreak.
The next day, Sarah Jane enters the TARDIS for the first time in years. The Doctor and Rose offer her the chance to travel with them, but she refuses, saying that it's time she found a life of her own. Instead, Mickey asks to stay on board, though it's clear Rose doesn't want him to. The Doctor says a proper goodbye to his Sarah Jane and flies away in the TARDIS, leaving her a brand new K9 Mark IV. They head home, and Sarah Jane tells him, "We've got work to do."
Ah, no, is that nice?
So fitting, like this before, because I forget as well that this came out, I think, in like April or something, and the Sarah Jane Adventures premiere was on New Year's the next year. It was only like 8 months or something.
So it must have already been in early pre-production.
I think that when they wrote her into this episode, they asked her, "Would you be up for like a pilot for a spin-off?" And she said absolutely. And then they did the pilot and were like, "Yeah, we're signing this up for a full series."
Brilliant. Thank God.
Well, before we give you our thoughts on the episode, we reached out to you on our X account and asked what you thought of this episode. And here is what some of you had to say. Hamish Steele, friend of the pod, said, "For whatever reason, I watched this like 5 times in a row the day it aired. I love that it's really about the Doctor and Rose's relationship and softly preparing the kids for her departure, but showing that she's not the first companion. I'm a little sad that Ace, Tegan and Mel didn't get their own dedicated episodes and had to share the limelight. This episode gave me huge expectations that we'd see a Saul reunion-style episode for all my faves, but that's just because they did it so well the first time. Also, as someone who dissected a rat in school and was younger than Rose at the time, I never quite understood why she was acting like they haven't done that for years. Made me really question my school's teaching staff."
They, when I was at school, in like maybe year 8, they were dissecting frogs. And they gave the option to step out if you didn't want to dissect a frog. And let me tell you, I stood out. I was not going to cut open a frog.
I never got the chance to dissect anything myself, but I remember being
The
in
opportunity.
the class. The opportunity.
You were like,
but
if only.
We had to watch them dissect, I think, a deer's heart, and we had deer's lungs. And I remember they plugged it into some like plumbing, and they pumped air in, and they showed the lungs like filling up and
horrid.
down. Yeah, someone fainted
Horrid.
at the back of the class, I remember.
Well, I'm sure they did. They should have done. That's how you all should have reacted. Anyway, next tweet. Dave said, what a great way to introduce a previous companion. It wasn't forced. It was very natural. I like how Rose goes from being jealous of Sarah Jane to them both laughing and sharing adventures with the Doctor.
Dalton said, amazing. It's a great way to show the audience that Rose isn't the first companion. It also hits hard if you watch Sarah Jane's timeline on the show, and we got one of the best spin-off shows. She's the best companion of the whole show.
Ah. Clara fans have something to say.
Clara fans have something to say.
Clara haters have something else to say. Laura said, one of the strongest episodes. I always quite fondly remember my dad telling me more about Sarah Jane and K9 from when he'd watched it as a kid. Strong story, strong character moments, strong funny moments, and an excellent villain. What more could you ask for?
What more could you want? Casey said, this one is one I remember watching when I was a child and was one of the first episodes I saw that really made me fall in love with the show. It's super nostalgic. It's a great intro episode with fun, classic Who characters.
Bionicle Bottom said, this is one of my favourite revival episodes. I love Sarah Jane and her dynamic with Rose. This episode was so funny and meaningful. Double mother attack.
Double mother attack. Selena says, Anthony Head is perfection. That is all. Very simple. Love it.
Simple, to the point. Well, what did you think?
I think it's bloody great. Hate it.
Disappointing.
No, I love it. I think that, again, series 2, and I'm someone who watched from series 1, Rose was the first episode that I saw, but something about series 2, like, I feel like it was, I don't know, I was such an established Doctor Who fan by that point, if that makes sense. Like, I'd had the full year from the first series, so I, like, vividly remember, I don't have very strong memories of watching episodes of series 1. Like, I really remember watching the finale, I really remember the Slovene week, but it's kind of spotty. Whereas I like remember where I was the day New Earth came out. I remember watching this at my grandparents' house. Like, there's so much nostalgia for it, so I always wonder whether I have like a clear view of whether it's good or not. But I genuinely think that this episode is one of the best character studies for the Doctor and a companion dynamic that we've ever gotten, even to this date.
That's what I'd say. That's what I find so interesting. Great. Should we share some things we thought when we were watching?
Exactly. You go for it. Let me know what you thought.
Okay. Well, right from the off, I think as well, you're right. It's very hard to see this with a clear view because we were watching it as excited school-age 10-year-olds.
Yes.
10 and 9-year-olds when we first watched it. And I loved having the Doctor turn up as a physics teacher at the time. I was like, oh my God, because any excessive scariness of vampires in school, which was quite a grim cold open, was like, oh, why are you up here? Why are you bothering me? Oh, the nurse sent me up here because I've got a headache. Oh, why didn't you just go home? Oh, because I haven't got any parents. Like, oh, nobody to miss you. Why don't you come in? It's almost lunchtime.
And then the scream.
So, but it's offset immediately because in comes David Tennant's your teacher. So you can't be that scared because the good guy is downstairs to save the day anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a cold open. And there's quite a few episodes in this series where I'm like, oh, this is kind of like a intense way to start this, because I feel like Tooth and Claw, the episode before this, opens with someone's death as well, I feel like, and quite a few of them start like that. But no, you get an immediate sense of calmness. And I also think watching this as a kid and watching him as a teacher, who's someone so accessible to you and is meant to be like a figure of authority and someone who's like meant to be there for you, you're like, oh, okay,
yeah,
cool. The Doctor's here, we'll be fine.
The Doctor's here, it's going to be okay. And I like as well that David Tennant, sorry, I'll say another point. David Tennant plays a good teacher, doesn't he, as well? He does Family of Blood in the next series.
Yes, he does.
Lovely John Smith. And the Catherine Tate special, not long after this as well.
Yeah, played a teacher in that one.
Very
an English
naturally
teacher.
plays a teacher, doesn't he? We've said watching season 1 2023 that, oh no, what year is it? 2024.
Baby.
Season 1 2024, that we quite like the build often before just getting into a story, and we were like, oh, it's a shame we didn't get more TARDIS moments, more conversation, more the lead up to how they got to a planet. Sometimes in this series, often we just find out they're there and it's like, we're here, it's the Regency times.
Yeah.
But what works well, I think, on this one is actually thrusting them in with good morning, class. That's a gag. And then he goes to the dinner lady. And then he goes up to the dinner lady. She splats some mash on his plate. It's Rose. She's playing a dinner lady. And they then kind of pepper in throughout the episode, like, oh, we've already been here for 2 days and nothing's happened. And then, oh, your boyfriend put us onto this. And then that teacher that got replaced, that was strange. Why is that weird? She never played the lottery. Oh, the world is very strange place.
I love it. And if anyone's a real deep diver of Doctor Who in this era, did you used to watch the TARDISodes?
Oh, yes. But I didn't have a video phone. My dad didn't either. So I couldn't.
I don't remember. I feel like I remember watching them on the BBC website at the time, but you can go on YouTube. They're in very, very, very bad quality. But the TARDISode for this one is Mickey, I think at like a internet library or an internet cafe, like looking up the school and seeing Torchwood had like access denied him, looking into it more, and that's when he calls the Doctor and Rose and he's like, you've got to come back to Earth, there's something weird going on here, and then it cuts to a Krillitane. So there's backstory outside of this episode even.
I love it.
I love
Torchwood was aware, they just weren't helping.
Yeah, no, exactly.
They were like doing a very hands-off monitor the situation.
They were like, I'm sure it will solve itself. Maybe they wanted to crack into the skaters paradigm. They were like, they're doing us a favour, and then we'll just gun them all down.
On the chips, I always remember thinking, God, I bet those chips taste good. Because we did get in school on a Friday, we'd have fish and chips.
Yeah, I remember fish and chip Fridays at school. Did you have Pasta King?
No.
Do you know what Pasta King is?
I know of Pasta King. I do.
I remember having it like once, and it's
very
just
thin pasta sauce.
It's very thin pasta sauce, and like it's as if pasta just turned to overboiled mush in your mouth with a thin. It wasn't very pleasant, my darling.
It wasn't. Did I not miss out?
No, you didn't miss out by nothing. The chips were nicer.
Chips were nice, weren't they? I thought it was interesting when the Doctor tastes the chips and he's like, oh, the chips are a bit different. And Rose's like, oh, I think they're gorgeous.
Again, leans into the thing later. I know the chips are like a regular theme in this because they have a point, like with the oil. But that line with Mickey in the cafe, I just can't get over that. That is so like, do you remember, what was it, like Fat Fighters UK or something, where it's like, things fatty bum bums are going to walk themselves into an early grave. Fat families, that was it.
Guzzlers.
Yeah. He'd open the door and this would be like a 12-year-old kid like, good afternoon. He'd be like, hello, fatty. Like, I was like, oh, God, this is so naughty.
Did not back.
No,
and then we went on a Wii Fit and it was like obese.
Oh, God. Very of that.
I spent the rest of the day doing the stair stepper to feel good.
I like, though, that the Doctor, when he tries the chips, he tastes something is off, but he can't work out what it is because it's not making him any cleverer because he's already clever enough. Like, he's already that clever that he can't notice the effect.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because
I thought it was maybe just that it was working on humans, human biology. That's who it was for.
I mean, it could be. I don't think it's ever outright said, but all the stuff that it's sort of like opening their brain to, he already knows all of that, so it wouldn't make any difference to him.
Yes. Obviously, by the way, I'm stupid because when the Doctor in the classroom is asking the kids these difficult questions, like, what would happen if I had 2 wires and I da-da-da-da-da? I was like, these are quite hard questions. And then when he asked, like, how do you travel faster than the speed of light? I was like, right, yes, I see that you're not meant to be able to answer that question.
No, I also like the idea that the Doctor just doesn't really get what kids that age would know. Like, you know what I mean? Like he probably genuinely was asking at the beginning, and then by the end you're like, oh no, faster than speed of light. Okay, cool. But it's good to know that hey, Toby Whithousen, who's writing this, knew how to break the speed of light. So,
well, now we do. It's a quantum tunnel.
Yeah, there you go. Anyone who's seen Endgame, obviously.
Obviously. There was a line in this that smelt a bit classist that was chucked in as well, Naughty's Telly, but about happy slapping hoodies with Asbos and ringtones.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what?
I thought there would be happy slappy hoodies with Asbos, happy slappy hoodies with Asbos and ringtones.
I was like, did you, Doctor? Is that what you thought would happen? Is that what you were expecting? The Doctor was just a bit like, I thought it'll be chavvy. And it was just like,
basically. Well, but this series opens with Rose going, like Cassandra Rose being like, oh my God, I'm a chav. Yeah.
Yeah. The demonization of the working class under New Labour trickled through into.
It really did.
Into Who?
Into the Who scripts. I want to talk for a second, because I know we'll get into Sarah Jane in that, but I want to talk for a second about Anthony Head in this episode, because obviously he would have, like, not too recently come off the back of Buffy fame, so he was already quite a notable name, he went on to do, like, Merlin and stuff. He's done lots of stuff, but he is just so good in this. Like, he deliciously plays a villain. He's one of those like delicious villains, and
You love that word.
I
You whip
love
it out
that
now and
word.
then. You whip it
Every
out
now
now
and
and
then.
then for something special.
Every now and then I'll say it. And he just, the way that he talks, and he's so... Nick was watching with me, and he was like, of course they made the alien posh. And I was like, yeah, I guess. But it's just like, and you do, Doctor. Only you.
I like a posh
The
villain
last.
who's got...
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
posh
He's
villain.
really, and he's menacing as well. Like, you know that bit where he sort of stops walking and it highlights on his shoes, and then he just spins on his heels. I remember like doing that as a kid because I thought it was so cool.
Of course he did. Of course he did, walking around the school just spinning around.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have any friends.
Hey! That was mean. That was nasty.
Me too. So don't worry. No, he was really good. He reminded me really strongly, actually, of the Demon Headmaster, which was that late 90s show. I think it was a book series, and then it was a CBBC show, but maybe before CBBC was CBBC, it was just...
It was very
BBC
of
children.
the same ilk of The Queen's Nose. Remember that?
Yes. Very that. I love both those series. I couldn't remember the story now, but I actually found them quite scary. And it was Terence Hardiman, who passed away last year, who played the Demon Headmaster, and it felt very like there was some inspiration from that in this.
100%.
There was a lot of really good scary kids TV as well that I can still in my head now like hear the theme to the Demon Headmaster, like do 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 do, and in the titles he like pulls his glasses off and he hypnotizes you. Oh, scary. My parents probably didn't like that one either. But I was surprised how much stuff Anthony Head did around Doctor Who.
He's done a lot.
In 2001, he was in a webcast version of Doctor Who, a story called Death Comes to Time, in which he plays a Time Lord called Valentine.
Right.
He starred in a Big Finish series called the Excelis Trilogy. And then in 2005, narrated a 2-part documentary called Project Who, which is about the series coming back.
Okay.
Which was on Radio 2. And then he also did a Doctor Who audiobook called The Nightmare of Black Island. And then, this will be obvious when you think about it. Go on. Do you know it?
The Infinite Quest?
No, that wasn't what I was going to say.
Oh.
He narrates series 3 and 4 of Doctor Who Confidential.
He does. That too. Like, I remember watching it and I was like, I think I was watching the Planet the Ood one for a Wholala prep at some point. We haven't done Planet the Ood. It was one of them. I was watching one of them. And I was like, oh, this is Mr. Finch.
It's an early morning in Swansea and the cast and crew of Doctor Who have already shown up to set up for the day's filming. And then the biggie is that he auditioned to play the 8th Doctor in the 1996 TV film and lost out to Paul McGann.
He did. He even got as far as screen testing in that one. So, yeah, it's interesting to see what could have happened.
He would have been good as well.
He would have been good. He would have been a good Doctor.
And I'm sure they had that in mind when they put him in this as well. I like to believe that he's a Who fan, given the amount of Who work he's done around it.
I'm sure.
He probably couldn't do 2 series of confidential narration and not enjoy the show a bit.
No, exactly, no. He's someone who I could see them bringing back into Doctor Who, because, I mean, if anything that the war between land and sea has shown us is that they can bring back Doctor actors in different roles. And he's someone who I can imagine them bringing back and giving a different role in the show.
Yeah. I think, tangent, the war between the land and the sea, I think that comes out, suddenly I was thinking of, what's Selena Gomez's band called?
Selena Gomez in the Scene.
Selena Gomez the Scene. The war between Selena Gomez and the Scene. Oh my god, my brain. I think it's coming out in the summer after season 2 comes out.
I would be surprised if it had come out before season 2, just given how long ago now season 2 wrapped. I would have been surprised if they had. It's interesting though that in season 1 there was a throwaway line in 73 Yards, but the Doctor said, the war between land and sea. Like,
yes.
It's interesting that he said that.
So back to the episode. Where is Mickey? Yeah, is he in a internet cafe doing this?
I always got the impression it was like an internet cafe. It certainly wasn't like his office or something, and it was somewhere that you could remotely, like, Torchwood could remotely access it and be like, denied. But I always saw it as like an internet cafe or a library or something.
Right. There's a part when he's in this internet cafe and there's some writing on the wall behind him, and it's like, I can't remember, the acronym is like BFST, and it's like best friend something something, and I was like, is this the new Linda? Like another one that we just never see on screen?
Something tells me that he would not be spearheading a Doctor Who fan club.
No.
I like that bit though when Rose on the phone to him and he says, "So it was right to call you home," and she goes, "Yeah, well, I thought you just might have called me home, to call me home. Do you think I'd just invent an emergency?"
Well, that's what I was going to say. I really like that they're consistent with that kind of on-off thing with Mickey and Rose, which culminates in the decision for Mickey to stay in the parallel world.
Yeah.
And like call time on it. And that is kind of their very permanent breakup.
Yeah.
But I liked that little bit of kind of domestic subplot happening amongst these kind of ridiculous stakes, and the Doctor and Sarah Jane having their little moment. And underneath that, there's still this slight tension with like, oh, did he want me back? I thought, man, it would be nice if he did want me back, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know. Create an emergency. I wouldn't mind.
My only note I had is just poor Mickey. He can't catch a break.
Yeah.
I feel like this episode does a really good way of sort of like culminating Mickey's arc to deciding to go on the TARDIS, where he realizes that like he's basically the robot dog of the group, where he's just like on call when he's needed and he'll just sit to the sidelines otherwise. For me, I think New Earth is where Mickey stopped considering himself Rose's boyfriend. And so for this episode, I actually don't like there's like an underlying tone, at least the way I read it, of like, yeah, we used to be together, like, oh, what, you still want to get together, like you want to get back together, like that kind of vibe. But I don't see them as partners anymore. And I think that the reason why Rose is so like, did you see that she mouths the Doctor no at the end when he's like, can I come? And she mouths no at the Doctor, and he's like, oh yeah, fine, why not? Because like she has already made that clean break, and I can kind of get that vibe from Mickey that he's a bit like, oh, I don't know. Because it just it feels like he'd be like cramping her style in a way.
It is,
in a way,
it's her cool
Doctor.
little personal thing. It's like,
yeah,
it's like when you have to bring your little brother somewhere, and it's like, oh,
yeah.
right,
Well, that's how I think
take
she
him.
sees Mickey at this point, and like she, he's sat in the car. I love that line with the Doctor when he's like, "Leave the window open a crack, but he's metal. I didn't mean for him."
But there was a good turnaround on that as well, like when it really mattered. And it's like, right, Mickey's like, oh, let me guess, you just want me to go and shuffle all the tables, or I can't remember exactly what he says that he's going to be asked to do. And he's like, no, you need to evacuate all the children, and because he gives him a
says,
meaningful
like, pick
job.
up the coats.
Yeah, pick up the coats. That was it. And why does it say shuffle the tables? That's not a job. Anyway.
No, but he actually gets given an important job to the children and get them all out safely.
And he does it well. So, I mean, he unplugs the computers.
I was going to say, he sees all this amazing alien machinery and it all leads to one 3-prong plug that he just unplugs and suddenly everything's fucked.
Absurdly overloaded plug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's not safe, gents. That's not safe.
That's not safe.
The camp standout of this episode for me, I'll say it now, I won't say it for camp or damp because I think it's so good. When Rose is kind of pottering around with the alien dinner ladies in the back room, and they're shuffling this krilitane oil, which I guess is meant to be like chip oil, but extremely suspicious. Vast quantities of chip oil. And like, keep it level. And then some spills, and she's like, ah! They drag her off, and then they shut the blind in this menacing way while they kind of stare at Rose while they do it. And Rose gets out it's the same little Nokia she's got from Series 1. Love that phone. And
I thought that too. I was like, it's the same phone.
It's the same one. And they're like, what you doing? She's like, I'm calling an ambulance. No need. She's quite all right. It's fine. She does that.
Just like pops the mask back on and runs back, and Rose is just there like, okay? Question mark?
Okay, I guess.
Okay,
she doesn't report that back, does she, to the Doctor either? She just keeps that to herself.
Exactly. She's just like, there's some weird oil. I'm like, didn't you see a lady explode?
Something's up.
Something's up.
Like the flashing lights coming out of that side room as well.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
God knows what they did to her.
Oh, God.
So funny. They like fully exterminated her.
Yeah. Well, not long after that, we get the introduction, or the reintroduction of Miss Sarah Jane Smith.
Yes, we do. I was thinking the Sarah Jane reveal must have been an absolute gag for classic fans who, up until now, had probably been feeling a little bit neglected without many direct callbacks to the classic series.
Yeah, I feel so. Other than some villains, yeah.
Yeah. Because it wasn't until Series 3 in Human Nature Family of Blood that they even canonize the TV movie, is it?
That was the first time that they canonized Paul McGann. I remember there was a newspaper cartoon at one point where it was all the doctors and all the quote-unquote fake doctors. There was like the Schalke doctor and the Rowan Atkinson doctor, and they included the Paul McGann TV doctor within that like roster.
Yeah. I love Ten's reaction here, just like, oh no, good for you, oh, good for you, Sarah Jane Smith. And then goes off in this sort of trance, just kind of fantasizing and remembering. And...
you can tell that like there's actual very little acting to do, because David Tennant's always very publicly said like the Doctor and Sarah were like his companions. He's watched, I think, since John Pertwee consistently, and he was obsessed with Doctor Who growing up, and the Doctor and Sarah Jane were like his Doctor and his companion, and he just has so much love for the character and for her. And I remember hearing, when I was looking at this for another episode once, it was a different Sarah Jane episode, that Elizabeth Sladen had said that she would have refused to come back if it was just kind of like a walk-by cameo. I think when they brought this to her, she was worried it was just going to be like, you know, Sarah Jane walks past and the Doctor sees her and is like, oh, I remember her. And then she kind of like goes off. Because she's someone who, after leaving, consistently came back. Like, she came back for the 20th anniversary of the Five Doctors. She had the pilot for the K9 and Company sort of spin-off, which I like is canonically where the Doctor gifted her K9. She also did a lot of Sarah Jane with Big Finish. She had her own audiobook series, like various series, I think. And so I think Doctor Who, it goes without saying, had always been something so special and so important to her that she wasn't going to take the return lightly.
Yeah. They did it well. They really did it well. I think it goes into what we'll talk about, which is that really interesting exploration of the relationship between the Doctor and the companion, and they don't shy away from a really difficult conversation that has to be consistent with what the Doctor did in the day. So so I love as well the contrast, because the 10th Doctor is so Sarah Jane Smith, I love Sarah Jane. And Sarah Jane's reaction when she sees the TARDIS,
it's like fear.
It's almost like it's fear. It's really spooky. It's like, oh my God, it's here. Last thing I thought I'd see. And it's like she's like haunted by it. And it's like shock and horror and disbelief and, oh my God, it's you, isn't it? And it's so much more mixed than his response is. She has this kind of sadness. She's suspicious. She's a bit defensive as well. She's like, I got old. And then she's angry. She's like, I thought you died.
That's a really astute observation. Like, I think it shows the smugness of the 10th Doctor in this, when he's like, hello, Sarah Jane. Like you said, he's just like, oh, love Sarah Jane, good old Sarah Jane. And there's definitely a mix. Yeah, when she sees the TARDIS, it's fear. And then when her immediate feeling is like happiness, because like she said, I thought you must have died. It's kind of like the joy of realizing that your best friend is alive when you thought they were dead. And then the anger of, you left me and you never came back. And I thought we were best friends. And like you said, the suspicion of like, why is he here? Is he here for her? Like, are they just there both of Besties School, or is he there because she's there? Like, she does it also. I think it's so, obviously this gets explored more in the Sarah Jane Adventures as well. And I'm so glad like there isn't anyone more worthy than Elizabeth Sladen to have got on their spin-off show. But this episode is just so well written and so exactly where Sarah Jane, I think, would be at that time. And I had a fun fact I was going to save till later, but I'll say it now because I've got quite a few fun facts, that apparently the original script had it written that Sarah Jane was a recovering alcoholic, that since being with the Doctor, she'd sort of been led to alcoholism. And Elizabeth Sladen was the one who said, oh, I don't think this is what Sarah Jane would do. Like, this doesn't feel very Sarah Jane. I think we should take this out. And they removed it from the script because of her. And it's just clear that in no matter what medium, like, she's born to play Sarah Jane. She truly understands the character.
Yeah. It's a nice, like, possible, very adult interpretation of the story. What would a human do being abandoned and having to come back to their normal life? Would they end up an alcoholic? In this story, it's like she was drinking in the car, right? It's like, no, she was. She has a hip flask for sure, which is not to shame an alcoholic at all. I just, in the context of this story, how the hell were you planning to even weave that in?
I can imagine what they would have done is have one scene in the cafe where she takes out like her AA chip or something. Like, I can imagine that's how they probably would have done it. But like, still, I don't think that that's very conducive of Sarah Jane's character, and I'm glad that wasn't the direction that they chose to go in. But I do like, however, that they don't shy away from showing how it has sort of quote-unquote messed up her life, and how she's never allowed herself to go into another relationship. She's always felt like every guy has been in the shadow of the Doctor. She has kind of put her life on hold. She's still investigating like they did when they were together, but her life has never been the same in like a negative way. Like, you get the impression that she's kind of like a bit of a hermit, which I think you do see more of in the pilot episode of the Sarah Jane Adventures, that she is a little bit of a hermit. She's very much like a loner, and it's not until she meets Luke and that she starts to let people in.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's very that. She's like, she goes out to do the job, to fulfill the curiosity, to have purpose. But yeah, you're right. There aren't any real relationships that she has. She has K9, even K9's not working.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and it's interesting that despite the fact that it's kind of ruined her life, that Rose is like, what do I do? Do I stay? And she's like, yeah, like you still do it. Like, I'm not telling you not to do it. She's like, it's worth it. Like, it's gonna break your heart for sure. You know that. You should still do it. So that's really interesting. She's not like, you're going to get burnt by this, be careful. She's like, go for it.
I'm glad that she was strong enough to say, no, like, this is the closure I needed, and I'm going to continue with my life now. I'm going to sort of give myself a life. I'm not going to go with you. But she doesn't try and take that away from Rose. Like, I quite like the initial cattiness and fighting between her and Sarah Jane, because I think, especially with Rose, I had a note here that, like, it's a really good, obviously this episode is a great character exploration of Sarah Jane, but it's a really good character exploration of Rose, because she's such a strong adventurer with the Doctor, but this is an episode where you're really reminded that she's still quite childish and a young, vulnerable woman who can be jealous at times, and she really thought, like, I think all companions feel this at some point, where they think they're the only one, they're the first, with I think it's with Amy, when someone's taunting her and they're like, oh, I think it's the Dream Lord, you think that you're the Doctor's best friend, you're the one that he tells everything to, you're the special one. And she's like, yes, I do. But in this, Rose is having to face, I'm not the first, I won't be the last, am I special to you in any way? And I do believe that she is, but a lot of deep conversations about what it means to be a companion of the Doctor spark from this reunion with Sarah Jane.
The other thing I just forgot happens in this was that she got the invite to come along. Like, there was obviously a conversation that happened between the three of them, like, Sarah Jane can come, right? They're like, yeah, Sarah Jane can come. And despite that, they knew she wouldn't accept it. That's why K9 is outside behind back of the TARDIS, because they gave the option. They knew she'd decline it anyway.
I think the Doctor knew, but I don't think Rose knew. I think Rose thought she'd say yes. Because why? Because Rose is like, well, why
right.
wouldn't you?
And then maybe K9 was like a private gift from the Doctor. Like, I sort of knew you'd say no, but here's a little parting gift. Sit on your own, which was nice. It's a little way of saying, like, I did care. I did miss you. I do feel bad.
Do you want to hear something interesting? Again, I was going to save this for... There's so many fun facts this episode that I don't mind peppering some into the episode. It's never indicated on screen, but in the novelization of The Invasion of the Bane, it's revealed that when the Doctor left her K9, there was a secret compartment within him that had the sonic lipstick and, like, the watch and stuff. The tech that she has was gifted to her by the Doctor, hidden within this K9.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. That's lovely.
Yeah,
the bit I completely missed as well, I don't remember it, was the bit where Rose and Sarah Jane have a hug at the end in the very, very green TARDIS that we get in this time. And
I hate that. I noted I hate the green lit TARDIS. What the fuck is up with that?
But it's a bit extreme, but I don't mind it. But it's just coming from all angles. It's not just coming from the middle. It seems to just be like all encompassing green from all around. But she's like, oh, if you ever need to, like, come and find me. You can find me if you need to. And it's a little thing.
That's a line I forgot about.
Yeah, and it was sort of like, it was such an interesting two what if timelines. The one where Sarah Jane is like, go on then, one trip, and she comes along. And then the other timeline is Rose surviving, leaving, and seeking out Sarah Jane. And thinking about what that looks like in a world where it's like Sarah Jane in the attic with Luke and Clyde and Rani. And one day Rose pops up and it's like, hi.
Can you imagine if that had happened, where Doomsday didn't happen and she chose to leave the TARDIS, and then she had like a guest spot in the Sarah Jane Adventures one week? That'd be so interesting, like how they would do that.
Rose was never going to leave him.
She was never going to leave. I mean, we knew that. I like as well that it becomes very clear that I think this is the first time the Doctor's ever really fallen in love with a companion. And that's why I feel bad for how they wrote Phasmin, because it had the potential to be something else, but it just wasn't given the attention it deserves. And that's not to take away from how much it's connected with fans. But I just think that the Doctor and Rose, for me, in how it was actually written, is the only time I've ever seen the Doctor and a companion actually be in love with each other.
It's very rare, I think, that the Doctor falls in love. I think he's been in love with, I'll forget people, Rose, Clara, River.
I don't know about Clara. I know so many people say they do. I know so many people say it. I just don't know. I don't know. But River, yes, certainly.
We'll
River.
go back, but he's so in love with Clara in both forms. The type of love changes, but he's so in love with Clara. But I think it's nice. But I think that it should have come through. I think for poor Yaz, that it was a rare and a special thing that he fell in love, or she fell in love with a companion, and so I think they should have played that up a bit more.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was surprised when watching this episode at how borderline emotional I got. If I had allowed, I kind of, I stayed very British and I stayed very sat watching my program, but if I had allowed myself, I could have easily cried at this episode. There are so many moments in this that are actually genuinely emotional. K9's death at the end when he sacrificed himself, and Sarah Jane's like, "Where's K9? Where is he? What have you done?"
Yeah, it's
and then she tries to play it off and she's like, "Oh, it's just a silly robot dog," but she just can't help bursting into tears. That moment, I think the bit when the Doctor tells Rose, humans decay, you wither and you die. Imagine watching that happen to someone who you love. And Sarah Jane saying, I was watching it with Nick and he was kind of half watching, but that bit with the confrontation of Sarah Jane and the Doctor when she says, "I waited for you and I thought you must have died." Even he was like, "Oh my God, this is intense stuff."
It's very grown-up script writing, I think. It's dealing with it in a difficult way that feels like a real conversation between adults.
Yeah.
On a kid's show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't feel like they dumbed down that conversation. The quote bits I thought were stunning. Sarah Jane saying, "You were my life. We get a taste of that splendor and then we have to go back." And I like that it's a we thing. It's a common experience. Sarah Jane very much understands that she's not the only one. And I don't know if she's speaking on behalf of Rose here or just indeed all the other companions more broadly. And then Rose's unique experience with this as well, because it's a romantic relationship for her as well.
Yeah.
She said, "I thought you and me were... I obviously got it wrong. I've been to the year 5 billion right, but this is really seeing the future. You just leave us behind. Is that what you're going to do to me?" That was great. And then the Doctor's response, "You can spend the rest of your life with me, but I can't spend the rest of mine with you. I have to live on alone. That's the curse of the Time Lords."
That was a really good line.
And that, I think, has never changed. I think that has always been very consistent in every relationship with every companion. I think that explains everything you need to know about why the Doctor doesn't linger with a companion beyond 2 or 3 series, is because there is this really tiny window when someone can be a companion, because of just all the demands of the insanity of that life. And every time that they die or leave or get lost or whatever, that he has to confront again, shit, it always happens. It has to keep happening. I can't keep them forever. I can't keep people around in the TARDIS in their 80s. It's not going to happen. And every time it's equally painful.
I think there is a really beautiful element to this show. Ugh, not me talking about Doctor Who in a serious way. About how people always talk about how the show is ever changing because the character of the Doctor is ever changing. They keep regenerating. But within one Doctor's regeneration, they'll have, 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 companions throughout their era. And like you said, they get lost, they get left behind, they die, they choose to leave, and the Doctor always ends up alone. And it's a recurring theme throughout all of Doctor Who, but especially within the 10th Doctor's era, that he's a lonely man. Yeah. That he's lonely. And I like in Journey's End when Sarah Jane sort of confronts him again for this, and she says, "You act like such a lonely man, but look at you, you've got the biggest family on earth." And I think that it's this conversation again that comes up in the 6-year specials where Donna sort of says to the Doctor, "Why can't you just come round for a coffee? Why does everything have to be farewell? Why does everything have to be such hard goodbye? You could just pop in and pop out." And it all leans into the question of why the Doctor chooses to sort of drop people off and leave them. I think, like we were saying, it is just because he's aware that even if he does pop in and out, it'll happen like it did with the Brigadier, where one day he'll go to pop in and it'll be too late and they'll be gone.
Yeah.
And that must just be really painful to remember every time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and he doesn't get any better at it. It still winds me up. I like that it's a consistent. It doesn't wind me up in that I think it's a flaw in the storytelling or the script writing. It winds me up that he does this, and it's great that it's so consistent in every Doctor. But just so bad at goodbyes or finding any midpoint where it's like, yeah, fine, like I'll stay for a beer, like whatever. Like it's always like the most dramatic, the most, cold exit. He's always cold on his way out, and he almost takes it out on the companion a bit, I think, often when it's time to go, by being just a little bit less warm than he should be.
It's almost like shunting them away.
Yeah, shunting them away at the end. And Sarah Jane's the one who can be like, look, everything has its time, everything ends. She's come to terms with that, but the Doctor just can't quite.
He just can't. For someone who is such an ancient being, they really can't get over the lack of permanency to the universe.
No.
And it's really interesting. I really like that little line when Sarah Jane says everything has its time and everything dies. Like, she's presented with the option of, becoming young again and being with the Doctor forever. And she's like, no, that would be against the way that the universe works. And we don't need that.
The Doctor say that line again in a different story. Everything has its time and everything ends. Oh, he says it in a furious way. He says it in episode 2 of series 1 to Cassandra. And when he says
everything has its time and everything dies,
he's vengeful. And when Sarah Jane says it, she doesn't say dies, she says everything ends.
That's it,
And she says it as like a fact that you have to make your peace with. And it's a great other way of looking at the same quote, I guess, and maybe the way that Doctor sees that understanding, like sees that truth as a very hard thing to accept, where Sarah Jane seems to be a bit more like, that's the way the universe is, and that's fine, and we make our peace with that. Whereas he sees it as a really cruel thing.
God, Elizabeth Sladen just truly is a national treasure. She really is.
She is queen.
Oh, watching this like post 2011, like I do remember on, I think it was either CBC or BBC News, when they did the like Adele song cover, like in memoriam tribute to Elizabeth Sladen, and it was what Adele song was it? It was To Make You Feel My Love, I think, and it was just like a compilation of clips with Elizabeth Sladen, and it ended with "Say goodbye, please, this time," and then the Doctor's like, "Goodbye, my Sarah Jane," and I was watching that scene today, and I was just like, oh my god, like it just hits differently.
Right, we're getting to a point where I'm going to make some rapid observations about the episode, Sam, so get ready for this. Sarah Jane v. Rose is fantastic.
It's so good.
It was the original Girl So Confusing Lord remix. The whole like, where are you from? The Dark Ages. And then the delivery of, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but who exactly are you? Sarah Jane Smith. I used to travel with the Doctor. Oh, well, he's never mentioned ya. Oh, I must have done. Sarah Jane, mention all the time. Hold on. Sorry. Never. What? Not even once. He didn't mention me even once. Oh, mate. The Mrs. and the X, Welcome to Every Man's Worst Nightmare, was great.
Okay.
And then they worked out on the remix. They become besties. Right, should we do this bit together, Sam?
Let's do it together. Go on. Sarah Jane says, I had no trouble with space stuff. I've seen things you wouldn't believe.
Try me.
Mummies.
I've met ghosts.
Robots. Lots of robots.
Slovene in Downing Street.
Daleks.
Met the Emperor.
Antimatter monsters.
Gas mask zombies.
Real living dinosaurs.
Real living werewolf.
The Loch Ness Monster.
Seriously?
Oh.
Does he still do that thing where he strokes bits of the TARDIS?
Yes, I'm like, do you two want to be alone?
Love it.
So funny. I love that scene.
Excellent. Just so great. I think Rose's outfit in this episode eats as a quick point. I think that's an under-cosplayed costume.
I love Sarah Jane's outfit in this.
Yeah, nice and simple. Black jacket, pink top. Why not?
Yeah.
Or indeed blue top, depending on the day. I also think it being set in a school was so great as a kid watching this. I think it was just so for kids, this story. It was, 1 foot in, like, it was something really special for the classic fans who are a bit older, but also for kids. Jokes about like, I thought teachers slept in school, and then, it feels so wrong to be here at night. And then the teachers do sleep in school. Hilarious, brilliant, ramming a car through a school window, very cathartic.
We are in a car. We are in a car.
K9 barely speaks in this, but what an angel.
Yeah.
And then two things I miss. One thing I really miss is people knowing who the Time Lords were. So Mr. Finch says, I always thought of you as such a pompous race. Ancient, dusty senators, so frightened of change and chaos. And of course, they're all but extinct. Only you, the last. And I miss people coming across the Doctor and being like, a Time Lord? Impossible. Because the Time War was kind of an all-encompassing happening at all points in time. So there shouldn't really be like 2 series where everyone remembers like, oh, the Time War. Oh, yeah, that just happened. It kind of should be like a constant, like a Time Lord, like impossible, like your people are gone.
I like the Sontarans' reaction when they hear, like, I thought you didn't know his name, and they say Doctor, and it's like, we have an enemy of the Doctor, and it's like, the Time War, the last great war, and we weren't allowed to take part of it. Like, they know what the Time War is, they know who the Doctor is, like, yeah.
That'd be a great way, I think, in future to reintroduce the lore when needed of the character of the Doctor, the Time Lord. Don't let the Doctor say it. Let someone else pick up on the significance of it.
They're gone! Ruby.
Gone.
They're gone.
Gone. Dealt with.
Ayo.
And also the one I miss, Deadlock Seals. I don't know what happened to that girl, but I never hear of her anymore.
Yeah, love a deadlock.
Everything used to be Deadlock Sealed. I loved it. It was like, triple deadlock.
Can't go in, triple deadlock. I also love that, like, a deadlock seal, you can't use a sonic, but then some things are triple deadlocked. Just, why not?
Yeah. Like, why just make sure you cannot get in?
Do you reckon a double deadlock undoes the deadlock, so you have to triple deadlock it to re-deadlock?
Triple deadlock. Yeah, sure.
Why not?
What's else? Like the TARDIS can be deadlocked. The door can be deadlocked, can't it? In the TARDIS, I think when the Master steals it, he's like, I deadlocked it. Don't bother.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I wonder what can't be deadlocked in the Doctor universe.
Wood. It's already impenetrable.
Yeah, that's true. Wood. Oh,
well, there we are. What a story, eh?
There we are. Well, look, what did you think of this episode, Alasdair?
I thought it was lovely. I thought I'm glad that we got a spin-off at the end of this. There couldn't have been a better introduction to Sarah Jane for younger fans, I think, for new fans. And Rose's skepticism about who's this? Who am I meant to like? I think just having to break down Rose's walls is a great way to convince your audience, no, she's brilliant. She's really, really great. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Rose and 10 are my 4 in Sarah Jane, I think.
Sure, I see that. Who, if you were a Doctor, if you were playing the Doctor one day, who would be the returning companion that you'd have a David Tennant reaction to?
Martha.
Yes.
Martha.
Yes, good for you. Good for you, Martha Jones. My Martha Jones.
Genuinely. It's not been long enough, I feel, to have a Sarah Jane-esque return. I would just like to see her return. Like, I am baffled as to whether or not there was a conversation to have her come back for War Between Land and Sea.
For Martha to come back, I think there could still be surprises that we don't know about. At this point, though, now they're doing the read-throughs and they're doing the cast photos, I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we can only clown for so long.
I mean, maybe they offered it. She just doesn't want to be in it. She just is like, look, I'll be really honest.
I feel like she has said before that she would, though. I don't know.
I just don't know. You'd think so,
Truly.
wouldn't you? You'd think it'd be such a great fun project to come back to. And it's also like, it's 5 stories. It's not a big commitment.
But I guess this is the thing. I think that, like, maybe it's that this is, like, going to be very much whoever the lead of this show is. It's not the War Between Land and Sea. It's not going to be about them. It's going to be about the War Between Land and Sea. And maybe it's that Freema, if she is going to come back for a spin-off show, wants to come back for, like, the Martha Jones adventures, you know?
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a little game for you.
Oh, yeah.
Before we wrap up this episode.
Go on.
Yeah, it's a little game called Camp or Down.
I love that theme.
I love it too. Well, for anyone who hasn't listened to an episode of Wholala before, we like to play a little game called Camp or Damp, where we look back on moments of the episode we've just watched and say whether they were camp or whether they were damp. Alice, are you ready?
Oh, I can't wait.
She does that, camp or damp.
Oh, she does that. Brilliant. Very camp. Uncaring. Cold. Oh, yeah, she does that. Don't worry about it. Just the way she stares down Rose. Also, it's great because, like, dinner ladies are scary, so extra good.
Extra good. Sarah Jane and Rose's iconic fight, camp or damp?
Very camp. I like all the Girls So Confusing Brat remixes, edits, TikToks. Love it.
And finally, you bad dog. Affirmative, camp or damp?
Affirmative. Oh, K9. Poor K9. He's a good dog. I like how his little tail waggles as well when he's called a good dog.
And the ears, the tail and the ears, I love it. No, I've always wanted a full scale K9. I remember itching that scratch a bit as a kid with the like quarter scale remote control one, but a full scale K9 would really slap.
Yeah, please.
It would. Well, I've got a couple fun facts for you as well this episode.
Oh, go on.
Which I won't have it on the mic, but you keep highlighting them and reading them, so I've moved them so you can't see them.
Okay, right. I'm not looking. I'm scrolling up.
No, I've taken them off. I've taken them off the page. You can't see them.
Oh, right, good. Even better.
So this is actually a really cute fun fact. To keep Sarah Jane and Rose, like Billy and Elizabeth Sladen, laughing during the end of that fight, the makeup artist drew a little moustache on David Tennant, but didn't tell either of them. So he walked out in scene, and then they saw the moustache, and they were meant to already be laughing, and it made them laugh more. And that's why at the end of it, you see Rose like pointing at the Doctor and laughing because he's got the little moustache.
Oh, that's cute. That's funny.
It's very cute. Elizabeth Sladen had warned the crew about the difficulties of working with K9 prop, which had a reputation for breaking down. And despite several years of time in between and improvement in technology, her warnings were proved correct, as it was a very difficult prop to use.
Yeah, they need to put like monster truck wheels and suspension on him.
I wonder if, because this one, another fun fact of mine, the K9 prop used at the end of this episode is actually a refurbished version of the original radio control unit built for the Invisible Enemy, which was now in the possession of Matt Irvine. But maybe it's just because it was a prop, like from the old one. Maybe that's why it's not particularly like good.
Yeah, so at the very, very end, it's an original prop.
Yeah, the one that's used throughout the majority of the episode was one built for this, and then the one at the very end was an original refurbished prop.
Love it. Brilliant.
Love. And finally, Sarah Jane's last line to K9 in the episode is, "We've got work to do," which was also the last line of the original series run at the conclusion of the 7th Doctor's story Survival, where he says to Ace, "Come on, Ace, we've got work to do."
Oh, yes. Except this time she's not bowing out. She's staying firmly placed.
She is. She's jumping right back on the wagon.
Good. Well,
thank you so much for listening to this fun episode of Wholala. Next week, now, I need to ask you, Alistair, what do you want to do next week? We'll do this on the mic. We normally do this off mic, but I'm going to ask you, what do you want to do?
What I want to do? Well, we've had demand to go to more 12th or 13th Doctor stories. That makes me think, do we need to do a story like Face the Raven?
Do you know what I was thinking we should do?
What?
I kind of want to do Orphan 55.
Oh, yeah!
I just think, because it is widely seen. I have watched it, and as people listen to, I've not actually watched every single Jodie Whittaker episode, because for this podcast I want to have a raw reaction, but this is one of the ones I've seen. So I would like to watch it with like a refreshed lens and see if it's worth all the hate.
And also, there is some good comedy in this episode. People forget that. Mm-hmm. People forget too soon.
Benny, where's my Benny?
There's some good humour where they let Ryan be really funny in parts of this.
Yeah. I'm up for Orphan 55 if you are.
I'm up for it, babe. I'm up for it.
But before then, dear listener, we would love to hear what you thought of this episode of Wholala. You can reach out to us on all of our social media platforms. We're at WholalaPod everywhere. It's on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. You can also rewatch old episodes of the podcast on our YouTube channel, also at WholalaPod, and send us in your Doctor Who anecdotes. You can email us at wholalapod@gmail.com to let us know your fun fan stories of the Whoviverse.
And if you enjoyed this episode, you can rate us 5 stars. You can follow the pod wherever you're listening. Check out our coffee, ko-fi, if you'd like to buy us a coffee. And share the podcast with somebody you think would enjoy it, or who might also remember this episode and particularly enjoy hearing us chat about it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, and we will see you next week.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.